So as you look at these guidelines, I want you to bear in mind that sometimes the videos are edited in ways that some of what you'd like to see is just not there. If that's the case, just make sure that you note that in your write-up, and I'll discuss that a little more as we go on. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to describe the problems or the unacceptable behaviors that are exhibited from the point of view of the nanny. So when these episodes begin, and almost all of them, what happens is the nanny goes in and just observes the family, sort of baseline, business as usual, and gets an impression of what the dynamics are and notes any things that she feels like need to be addressed in terms of improving the functioning of the family. So I want you to talk about what does the nanny notice and what are her concerns. And then I want you to think about what are the problems or the unacceptable behaviors that the parents perceive to be occurring. And so I want to know that point of view of each parent. Virtually all the time there's going to be a father and a mother. There are a few exceptions. It may also be that there's another significant adult. If there's another significant adult that lives with the family, describe the problems, or spends a lot of time with the family, maybe I'll say that, like a grandparent that is integrally involved, then you'll want to explain the perspective of that person as well. Okay? For the third item, what you're going to do is you're going to discuss the family's strengths. And I am looking here only for strengths. So, what qualities or characteristics does each member of the family contribute, bring to the table that can be built upon in terms of improving the dynamics there? So I want you to look at the mother, the father, the children, again, any significant others that play a particular role in that family, and discuss, what are the strengths that that individual has that can be built upon as someone considers how to, make some changes in terms of behavior. Number 4 asks you to describe the target, or to describe the target behavior. Sorry, I scrolled too far. Target behaviors, and to conduct an ABC analysis on each one. So in all of these videos, you're going to see several things that are perceived as problematic in terms of children and sometimes actually adult behavior. And then I want you to try as best as possible to look at what occurs right before that behavior is exhibited, while the behavior is going on, or describe the behavior as it's going on, and then what occurs immediately afterwards. Always remember that a consequence is what occurs immediately after behavior. It doesn't have to be, we often think of consequences as negatives. Not necessarily so. A consequence is just what occurs immediately after that behavior, because that's going to be helping us to figure out what's reinforcing it, okay? This ABC analysis has to be done based on the behaviors that are there during that baseline observation before there's any intervention. So I don't want you to do the ABC, once the nanny puts things in place. I want you to do it prior to that. What do you notice, based on business as usual in that family, okay? Also, this is where you should consider that it may be that there are certain things that you cannot record because of video editing. So maybe you don't see what occurs immediately before the behavior. Just write that in your chart, not shown. Or maybe you don't see the consequence. So that's where, again, the way the video is edited may impact what. Then I want you to come back and list what is the nanny recommending. So the nanny will always, come up with a plan. What's the nanny's plan? And then for number 6, I want you to think about which specific behaviors is she targeting with each of her recommendations. So almost always there are several, okay? So with each of those recommendations, which behavior or behaviors is the nanny targeting for change? Then I want you to look at, for number 7, how's the plan communicated to the children? So, how are the children informed that we're going to be operating differently in the family, and these are the ways that we're going to operate? And then I want you to also look at how is the plan communicated to the family members, to the mother, the father, any other adults that are going to play a significant role in implementation. And, you're going to look at not only sort of what's the method that's used to communicate, but also you can look at the tone that's used when that information is communicated and really try to describe to the fullest extent possible what occurs in that interchange. Number 9, ask you to look at the results of the intervention. What worked and which challenges persist? In answering this, it's going to be helpful to you. Usually what happens is the nanny comes in, makes some recommendations, practices with the family, stays with them, and tries to help them, put some new processes in place, and then leaves, but observes from afar. And so I want you to think about when the family's left there on their own, how effective is that intervention, okay? And that's what you're going to write up. And then for number 10, I want you to go back and think about what you would recommend that the nanny do differently. So remember that no matter how good any of us are, there's always the potential to improve our practice. And so I want you to make sure that you're going in and you're making recommendations on how the nanny could improve, okay? Number 11, just ask what tips for behavior management you learned from that episode that can be applied to classroom management. So what did you learn that you think you could transition or translate into classroom practice? You're going to use APA format for your references, as you will for every assignment in our class. And you must cite the video at a minimum. I would say really at a minimum, you're going to cite the video and probably some things out of your textbook. Okay?